it is 4:30, so we're going to go ahead and get the meeting up and going. I'd like to welcome everybody to our call meeting in order to do our budget presentation. A little bit different than our typical meeting because it's for the purpose of presenting the first public hearing of the 2024 budget. We'll do this again during the 4:30 time slot at our next meeting on November the 16th, and then at our regular meeting on December the 7th, I believe. Yeah, December the 7th will be when we'll actually vote for approval of the budget. So just to explain why the meeting looks just a tiny bit different. But we will go ahead and we're going to open with the same format with opening remarks and then the prayer and the pledge. To go through as far as in opening remarks, remind everybody municipal elections are going on. Tomorrow is the last day of early voting. And then Tuesday will be election day for the cities of Nelson and Jasper. So they have seats that are up. Early voting is going on one more day, and I know that they would love to see a crowd show up because there's a lot of volunteers there, or a lot of temporary workers that are there that are in place and would like to put that to good use. But it has been just a little bit slow. Any other remarks that you guys have got?
Apologize for the phone dinging. The silence button is right outside the locate button.
Well, with that, we will kick off. I'll lead us with our invocation and prayer, and then we'll have Ashley Craig lead us with our pledge of allegiance. Father, we thank you for just bringing us here safely tonight. We ask that you guide us, that you direct us, that you lead us. We thank you for our community. We thank you for the men and women that serve, that keep us safe, both here and abroad. God, we just ask for your protection on them, that you guard them with just your arms. God, we're asking for you to be with us as we go through our meeting tonight and discuss all that has to be discussed, and that you give us the wisdom for all decisions that need to be made. We thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. We will go through the budget presentation. Before I go through the PowerPoint, this just kind of got the highlights and the overview portions of the budget. I do want everyone to know that effective today, there is a printed copy of the budget that will remain in the clerk's office while the public hearing process goes on. It'll be updated if there's any amendments following the budget, the public hearings, and then once it is approved in December, it will actually go and be posted on our website, and we'll post the full line item budget after the approval date. We don't post it prior to that so that the two copies don't get mixed up in case there is anything that gets amended before it's voted on. So there is a physical copy that anyone that wants to go look at the line by line, it is available for you to do that. The purpose tonight is to go through taking a look at moving into 2024. We're going to look at the fund structure. We'll look at the proposed fund budgets, the general fund detail with highlights, revenue, expenditures, the SPLOST account, and then we'll talk about ARPA in just a little bit. So we'll go through each of the slides in the presentation. Before I do go through this, I know I am the budget officer for the county by ordinance and the way that it's established. However, if you believe that I came up with all this data and all this detail by myself, you would be mistaken. Our staff has done an amazing job, Miranda and her team in the finance department, with getting all this put together, meeting with department heads and elected officials to gather all their proposals, their requests, and reviewing and working back and forth with them to make sure that there was a way to fund the requests that were there. Bill was trying to analyze the data and go through and work on that, and then Ashley and Kelsey actually helped a tremendous amount in helping organize the presentation. And Graham was a photographer that participated as well. So a team has went through this. It was not me individually by any means, but I just want to make sure to recognize their outstanding work and what they've done getting it through. Moving into 2024, I mean, we focus on our mission, and that's to provide transparent local government focused on consistency and protecting the soul of our community while working towards smart economic growth and the greatest quality of life for all who choose to make Pickens County their home or destination. I think that's our guiding principle that we try to follow and go through as we're doing all of our work, but especially when it comes budget time. I think that that's one of the most important things, that we can be transparent of the responsibility we have being entrusted with tax money to provide the services we have to provide. Highlights as we go through closing out 2023, I do think it's important to note again, there have been no utilization of the tax anticipation note. No standing loan was used this year. We have one approved earlier in case needed, and we were able to go through the year without relying on tax anticipation note. We're ahead on most revenue categories. Most of those are non-tax revenue categories, non-real estate tax revenue categories. Most departments are operating at or under budget regarding their expenditures. We've been implementing the new administrative software. One level of that on the finance side is in place. They're about to work on the HR side, and will continue to evolve to where that'll be fully in place. But that replaces 3 different antiquated systems that we had in place before. Coming into 2023, we carried in a fund balance, a general fund balance of $12,638,728, which is 38.25% of the fiscal year 23 operating budget. That's a huge point as to why we did not have to use a TAN. We've been able to get that fund balance up to a true functioning fund balance, and I think that that's a testament to all the department heads in the finance department and everyone working closely together, and all the other elected officials to try to help us get there. With that, there's countywide, there's 317 full-time employees, 67 part-time employees, 131 are seasonal and temp. I mentioned the elections a moment ago. Those are considered to be seasonal or temp employees that work the polls. So even if they're just working election day, they do show up as one of those. Plus we have all the recreation department, lifeguards and seasonal for different sports that go in. So that kind of shows that breakdown. Those 317 don't fall directly under our control. This is the organization chart, which may look really small from where you're sitting, but you can see the boxes at least. The bottom middle section is all the departments that function that answer directly to the Board of Commissioners. Over to the left and to the right, you have other elected officials that are in place. You have constitutional officers like the sheriff, tax commissioner, coroner. Over on the judicial side, we have our parts of the circuit with Superior Court, Juvenile Court, the District Attorney's Office, and then Magistrate, Probate, and Clerk of Court. Underneath, you've got things like the Board of Assessors and their staff, the elections and their staff, other authorities like the airport that fall in those categories as well. So it shows kind of a breakdown of how we're laid out and where those 300 plus employees are. They're not all directly under our control, but they're spread out throughout all of those departments. And even though they're not under our control, we're responsible for funding. So we have to ensure that the budget's in place to effectively do that. If you take a look at our fund structure, to show the breakdown, we do have our general fund, which is the larger budget that funds most of everything that you just saw. Enterprise funds include a water and airport area. We have an E911 fund that is separated out. Judicial grants, and then we have our SPLOST account and our ARPA fund. All of those are the separate funds that we go through. Proposed fund budgets for 2024. Our general fund, the proposed fund, is a balanced budget, revenue and expenses of $35,964,513. That's going to be for both the revenue and the expenditures. Water, you're showing a balanced budget of $3,336,113. And the airport is a balanced budget of $1,289,971. E911, you can see the budget for our 911 centers, $1,715,859. Judicial grants, $4,519,071. ARPA, which has no new revenue coming in 2024, but it's the rollover of the revenue from 21 and 22. We'll have $1,415,000 moving into that account. The 2020 SPLOST, the county's portion of that 2020 SPLOST, this is showing the 6-year total. So this hasn't all been collected at this point, but the 6-year estimated total is $30,266,000 for that total fund. I believe we've got a slide in a moment that will show a breakdown of kind of what that breaks down to annually. This is just an overview of all of those on one sheet. That's just showing the total of all the budget, all the funds in one place. Kind of looking at those by detail, we'll look at a couple of highlights. This is including a full property tax rollback, the legal property tax reduction that was put into place as the millage rate was approved. Most departments' operating budgets actually stayed the same. Net salaries and all the salary related items like FICA, retirement, health, and other insurance. Most of those are the areas that had increases this year. It is a balanced budget. The balanced budget has an 8.82% increase from over 2023 in revenue, and that's real growth, tax effect, sales, and service revenue. There's an 8.82 increase in expenditures, the majority of which falls into the category of salaries, FICA, retirement, health insurance, and other insurance. There's also an airport funding for a capital project that they have for next year that we've included into the budget so that no budget adjustment would have to be made throughout 2024 for that to be able to take place. And there's no use of general fund balance. We didn't have to hit the fund balance in order to balance the budget. We were able to balance it with all the items that were in place. Looking at the details on revenue, we'll go into the revenue category. You can see real property tax, the 2024 proposal is at $15 million. That's up from $13.3 in 2023. With the growth that's occurred and the new development that has taken place, there was a $1.7 million increase. Local option sales tax, there's an increase there from 4.7 up to $5,549,483. Other taxes stayed flat actually, and those other taxes include railroad equipment taxes, franchise taxes, alcohol beverage excise taxes, local mixed drink taxes, insurance premium, and financial institution taxes. So it's all the other side categories of taxes are just kind of lumped into other taxes there. You look at licenses and permits, it went from 563 up to 651, 650. Intergovernmental revenues, those transfers between departments actually went down. Last year it was at in 23, it was at $1,589,000, went down to $1,574,000. So it was a slight reduction there. Charges for services went from 4.17 up to 4.49 in the total amount for charges for services. Fines and forfeitures were carried over the same at $270,400. Other revenues also stayed flat at $264,600. And then, like I said before, the use of fund balance is at zero. We didn't use fund balance last year, and we're not using fund balance again this year in the proposed budget. Looking at that same revenue with those same categories, you can kind of see a breakdown of how those fall in terms of percentage. Real property tax makes up 41% of the overall revenue. Other taxes, 22%. Local option sales tax at 15.4%. Charges for services are 12.4%. Intergovernmental 4.38%. Licenses and permits 1.8%, and then the rest fall below 1% in there. That's just to kind of show an idea of the breakdown of where the revenue that funds all the operations of the county is shown in a pie chart there, just so you can kind of see the breakdown of where that all lays out and where it breaks down. And the importance of some of those other line items, our local option sales tax and some of those others, when you look at that, they do overshadow what the actual real property tax is in the funding of our budget. Looking at our expenditures, trying to show the breakdown of our expenditures by category. Public safety, which is made up and includes 911, fire and EMS, the marshal's office, emergency management, animal control, animal shelter, and the sheriff's office, and the multiple budgets within the sheriff's office. The proposed budget is at $18.180417 for 2024. That's an increase of a little over 1.5 from the 2023 budget. The majority of that's in staffing, in positions, as I talked about before on positions. We have increased a number with 3 new firemen to go into the fire department so that we can open up the station on Carlin Road. That's to really work to help assist us in faster response times and in working with trying to reduce the ISO rating throughout the county. The more we're able to staff these stations, the better we can get our insurance ratings. So we're working hard to do that. It's also in correcting a historical thing that has been done, and it's been done for a very long period of time. And that's staffing based on the total number of positions at the end of the year getting budgeted for the year, the upcoming year. In 2023, when the budget was approved, all public safety departments were down. There was a public safety shortage. They're now close to or at full staff in most of those departments. So we're actually budgeting for full headcount positions. So we shouldn't see a need for any adjustments to go with that. This should be a good, true, solid figure that we can depend on and work on. General government, it actually reduced, went from 6.2 down to 6.274 down to 6.213 for all general government expenditures. Judicial services had an increase from 4.24 up to 4.595. Public Works had an increase from $4,001 up to $4,298,000. Culture and Recreation had an increase of right at $300,000, going to $1,539,032. Housing and Development went from $618 up to $855. Health and Welfare went from $282 and remained flat at $282 in the requested budgets to fund health and welfare as well. That accounts for the 8.82% increase that was described. Showing how that breaks down in the share of the total expenditures, you can see public safety is 50.5%, general government's at 17.28%, judicial 12.7%, public works is 11.95%, culture and recreation is 4.28%, housing and development's at 2.38%, and health and welfare is 0.78%. The pie chart just shows that breakdown. You can see about half of all of our expenditures are public safety related that cover all those departments that I laid out for you just a few moments ago. When you look at the share of from 2023 up to 2024, you can see they remain fairly consistent. Public safety went from 49.43 up to 50.55, so there was a slight increase in the share of the overall expenditures. General government, there was a reduction. It went from 18.99 down to 17.28%. Judicial services stayed fairly flat, 12.83 coming down to 12.78%. Public works had a slight reduction from 12.11 down to 11.95%. Culture and recreation, slight increase going from 3.92 up to 4.28%. Housing and development, a slight increase from 1.87 up to 2.38, and then health and welfare really stayed right at the same. It's a slight fraction of a percentage difference there. That just shows the percentage of the increase from 23 to 24. You can see the difference. Public safety at 11% on the increase. Housing and development was up actually 38.1%. And then general government went down just under 1% at 0.98%. So we did have a slight reduction in that general government. Showing kind of the drivers and the reasons for those increases within those lines. You can see the salaries line item. We have done all we could to be fair and consistent with our surrounding counties to make sure our salaries are in line from across the board. But we've had increases in our health insurance. We've had increases in workman's comp. We've had defined contribution increase. You can see those different increases showing where salaries plus all salary related items comes up to 72.67% overall. Those are kind of the driving forces that we really can't do anything about. We have to manage what we can to pull that off. Taking a look at SPLOST, we are looking at the total over the 6-year period being $30,266,000 estimated budget. For that would calculate out at $5,044,333. If you were to break down the entire SPLOST over the categories for how the referendum laid those out over the course of 6 years, don't get excited, Kirk, you don't have this much money this year. But over the course of 6 years, roads, projects, and facilities get $16,039,000. Parks and Recreation, 3.7. The enterprise fund debt, 3.496. Public safety, for fire and EMS, 2.96, and for the sheriff, 2.96, and then water and sewer facilities is budgeted at $1,110,000. So you can kind of calculate those out over a 6-year window, and that's the estimated. It's estimated because you don't know what the revenues actually bring in. That's based on sales throughout the area. So that's showing that overall. ARPA, as I said before, there's no new revenue coming into that line, but there is a carryover of $1,415,000. It's earmarked for special projects. An example, the new Talking Rock Fire Station that we're getting ready to prepare to go out to bid for is one of those projects. We have some Parks and Recreation projects that we want to try to include. But that money has to be spent by the end of 2024. So we actually do have a timeline of the next little over 12 months to get that. We're preparing to get ready with bid packets to get those things out in the very near future. We'll approve those as they get prepared. So we'll have that ready to move forward in the very near future. And that's the summary of all the overall line items that show the breakdown of the budget. Like I said, there's line item details for each individual budget that is available. I know each commissioner has received a copy and has been going through and reviewing those as well. I urge y'all to continue doing that, not consider, but to continue to do that. And then any questions or anything that you believe needs to be adjusted, to reach out to Miranda, Bill, and we'll sit down and make sure if there's anything that's there. But that is the budget for 24. I do believe it's a solid budget. I think it's a good budget. I think it's a very conservative budget. We've tried to be as conservative as we could to show our expenses where they need to be. But we've also been realistic on trying to be practical on our revenue line items as well, so that we can ensure that we're able to manage and protect that as we go through 2024. With that, you guys have any questions that you want in the meeting before?
I'll just say the last time that we did this, I was really new. I didn't really have a clue what I was doing. So this time going through it, it's been refreshing that everybody that I've reached out and asked questions to has been very responsive and helpful. Kudos to Miranda and Bill, anybody that's helped pull all that data together. I know Chris was involved too. That's a lot of work. And even the PowerPoint, I know Graham, Ashley, and Kelsey. So,
Yeah, she said at chamber event. So
great job, everybody. It's good stuff.
It's become a joke whenever we have to attend a public event where they're speaking that's there. He'll step to the side just to make me have to do it in any setting. So I have to look over and smile whenever I say it. With that, I would like to open up. Is there any guest comments? Any comments from guests that you have?
I'd say that it's impressive that with the cost of everything going up, that we managed to stay, pretty much within the same budget from last year to this year. It's everything. It's manpower, it's materials. Everything you touch has went up almost catastrophically the last year or so. So if we're staying pretty close to what our budget was last year, it's very impressive, and not touch our fund balance or paying.
Well, I think, you being a department head, that's what makes it even more impressive that most departments are operating under budget right now. With the increased cost of everything that we're having, the way you guys are actually studying the numbers that get sent to you every single month and trying to hold the line makes a huge difference, that nobody's just going for a free-for-all on trying to spend, but actually doing all you can to make sure that it's managed efficiently. So I attribute that to your hard work, very much so, especially in your world. But you have a lot of spots according to the thing, so.
I'm on page, man. I'm on page.
Miles Road.
Yeah. Well, with no other guest comments, I entertain a motion that we adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
We will be adjourned. Thank you.